The divisive nature of American politics has seen the threat against politicians rise fourfold in the last year. Even at the US Capitol, one of the most protected buildings in the world, Capitol Police couldn't protect them. An angry mob storming Congress amid claims of a stolen election. 5 people died in the attack, and elected officials were left fearing for their lives. In the weeks that followed, a huge military and security presence surrounded Capitol Hill. And many politicians stepped up their own personal security, some even buying body armour or carrying a firearm. Retired Major General Linda Singh was one of those tasked with reviewing their security.
The key thing is, how can we ensure their safety, but yet allow them to do what they're hired to do, right? I mean, they're elected to be out in the public. And so how do we get that fine balance?
And how have you struck the balance?
Well, I think it's challenging. I think it's challenging because every member, as you can imagine, has their own view of security. And so one of the things that, you really have to do is to get personal with that individual to say, okay, how are we going to work this? What works for you may not work for the next person.
Congressional spending on private security has surged among members of both parties since January the 6th attack. Republican Liz Cheney spent $58,000 on protective measures in the first 3 months of this year after publicly denouncing Donald Trump for inciting the violence. Fellow Republican Senator Mitt Romney spent more than $43,000 on security after voting to impeach the former president. US politicians don't usually meet members of the public without an appointment. And when they hold town halls, which is about as close as you get to a constituency surgery over here, they're allowed to expense security detail and body armour. But if they want security at home or bodyguards for when they're out and about, they have to pay for it themselves. The most recent targeted attacks on individual members of Congress include Democrat Gabrielle Giffords, who was shot at point-blank range during a constituents meeting outside a supermarket in Arizona 10 years ago. She survived. In 2015, Senator Clementa Pinckney was killed in a mass shooting at a historic black church in South Carolina in what was thought to be a hate crime. Political spending on security here is roughly 3 times what it was 2 years ago. Members of Congress feeling increasingly threatened by the very public they're elected to represent. Sally Lockwood, Sky News, Washington.